Hey, fellas, you know you gotta get Manscaped. If you want your favorite parts taken care of by your favorite people, well, then you gotta take care of them. And if you use the promo code DNVR20, you'll get 20% off your purchase plus free shipping from manscaped.com. Remember, you take care of your boys so your boys get taken care of. It's a really nice mutual situation, whether you're getting hooked up with that razor, you need a little bit of a refresher on your spritzer situation, your shower gel, your deodorant, whatever it may be, even the most comfortable pair of boxers you've ever worn in your life. Pick it up at manscaped.com and use that promo code DNVR20 to get 20% off plus free shipping. And welcome into the DNVR Rockies Podcast presented by Strava Craft Coffee. Remember to use that promo code DNVR20 and you'll get 20% off your entire purchase of CBD-infused, deliciously rich, and potentially life-altering Strava Craft Coffee. I am your host, Drew Kreisman. I am the managing editor of DNVR Rockies. With me, as always, is our beat writer, Patrick Lyons. And on this episode, we have got to discuss a 10-6 win for your Colorado Rockies that probably should have been a 10-4 win for your Colorado Rockies, or maybe even a 10-3 win for your Colorado Rockies. But a win is a win. They salvaged one in this series with the Texas Rangers behind what turned out to be a very good starting performance from Jon Gray and what nearly turned into another implosion from the bullpen. Patrick, pick them. Which one of those two? Where do you want to start today? Where are your thoughts at in the immediate aftermath of this one?
Well, my fingernails are telling me to go one way, the bloody stumps that I've chewed off. But I think we should start with the man who deserves the credit here. He would be our king of the game, Jon Gray, as he really stepped it up after ultimately, was his worst performance of the year. Again, it was only 3 starts, but you even go back and look where he gave up 11 hits to the Diamondbacks, which tied a career high for his worst. He only pitched 3 1/3 inning. That was his worst start since back in 2018 when he had all of those issues and was sent down to AAA to try to figure it out. And he responded in a major way. He only really made 2 bad pitches, of course, to Odor and Gallo. And the one to Odor really wasn't that bad. It was just he was going high away on the fastball, and it wasn't high enough. It wasn't away enough. And Odor went the opposite way on it, did a fantastic job. A young veteran guy who I think is still only 26 years old. It feels like he's been around forever. Right? But really, those 2 bad pitches were it, and he looked really good. And we had said last night, kind of previewing this game, this was as close as a must-win game as you could possibly get. And to see Jon Gray be the one who snaps the skid, much like Germán Marquez did last year in San Francisco with his near no-hitter, for Gray to be the one to have done it, really just sends a fantastic message to the organization right now at this time when they need it.
Right. So as Patrick mentioned, he is our draft king of the game. Make sure to use that promo code DNVR because you can get a sign-up bonus. You get a great sign-up bonus where you get up to $20. If you place a $20 bet, you get a free $10 bet on any of these first-round playoff odds, which is a pretty cool deal from our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. But, yeah, Patrick, it's like we talked about, specifically the swing and miss stuff, getting the 7 strikeouts, even in a game where the velocity wasn't there. I predicted on last night's show that he was going to get more strikeouts. I took the over on a made-up 4.5, which actually I think ended up being the actual line, and he went over it relatively comfortable with the 7 strikeouts, despite the fact that the velo still isn't there. He's still not hitting 96, 97 miles an hour with the fastball. Did, as we talked about, employ that slider better, used it in more counts, was hitting his spots a lot better, the command that it was there. But the slider, he came out and showed, he answered that question. Can Jon Gray get enough swings and misses without 96 on that fastball? And today the answer to that question was yes, and that's big news for him moving forward, especially if that velo is not going to just magically return. But I do think it'll come back, and that'll mean even better things for him moving forward.
For sure, he's a veteran guy at this point. Let's face it, he is the oldest guy in the staff with the most experience, and he needs to know how to pitch without his best stuff. And it's strange to think fastball is just a pitch you don't have the way you normally feel like you have it. So you got to do something different. The slider I think was there. He had good command. Hitting is rather pitching is just about messing up a hitter's timing, because that's what hitting is. So that's all you got to do is just be careful with that. And I really like the how Drew and Jon Gray work together, Butera there behind the plate, and I think that was helpful. So maybe that's the correct combination. I know a lot of that just has to do with Walter starting the last 2 nights. We have a day game after a night game, but that's one of those positive things you could take away, on top of the fact that just Gray really pitched that well. And you like to see that going forward, because the next time you see him on a mound will be in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. So this start is coming at a real great time.
Yeah, you wanted him feeling good going into that, and I think he's going to be. So, yeah, great, just really great stuff. Like you said, he only gave up 3 hits. It was 2 bad pitches, and really only one terrible pitch. The slider he threw to Gallo was hung and promptly deposited into the second deck. But as John has often said before, solo shots won't kill you at Coors Field, and they certainly won't kill you when your offense performs like the Colorado Rockies did out there today, though it did get tense there at the end. Blue Ridge guy coming and asking, do you think it's time to take Diaz out of the closer role? And Henry saying, is the bullpen the key focus for the Rockies heading into their series with the Astros and Dodgers? The answer to that question, Henry, is yes. The bullpen is really the key here moving forward. And I thought, Patrick, that what Bud Black did today was really interesting. And by putting Jairo Diaz out there in a non-save role, despite the fact that I still think when he put him on the mound, he thought, moving forward, I want this guy to be our kind of de facto closer here. But he needs to tighten it up. He's been allowing too many base runners throughout the year. The whip is real high despite his ability to get out of it. And today, bases loaded again. Maybe argue coulda, shoulda, woulda gotten out of it with the ground ball there that Ryan McMahon doesn't handle and is charged with an error. That said, I think he lost the closer job today out there for now. I don't think he's your de facto closer moving forward. I'm not sure there is a de facto closer moving forward. We've talked a lot about how it's going to be closer by committee, and I think that pretty much has to start moving forward now, because you just can't rely on Diaz to be what I was hoping he was maybe going to turn into here for the Rockies.
Yeah, I didn't get the sense that Diaz was the definitive closer. Now, granted, he had 3 saves coming into this game. He had been getting some of those opportunities. But we saw Daniel Bard, have that one opportunity, and I really thought some of it would have to do with matchups. And it could have been that Diaz pitches the 8th and Estevez pitches the 9th, because 3, 4, and 5 will be coming up in the 9th inning if Diaz has a nice clean inning, if you will. So I was never entirely sold on Diaz being the definitive closer. I get why you would want to have a guy do that. It just makes everyone's role that much easier. You're not maybe trying to do too much and saying, man, if I really look good in the 7th, maybe I'll be the 8th inning guy, and so on and so forth. And it's just nice to, for everyone to know where they're at, especially when it comes to getting ready and warming up in the appropriate times. But yeah, I think, the next time out, we probably won't see Jairo Diaz. And I say probably because we don't know the health of Carlos Estevez. The final out of the game, line drive by Scott Heineman, caught Carlos real hard. He was grimacing in pain there. Didn't look very good. Scott Mariyama, one of the trainers there, along with Keith Duggar, was there keeping an eye on him. So if Estevez is going to be out, let's say even for the next 48 hours, and you don't have him on Monday night, maybe you do go back to Jairo Diaz. Bard looked a lot better, again tonight.
I think a lot of people want Bard right now. I'd probably hand the ball to Almonte next save opportunity, but you're right. There's not a clear-cut answer here.
Yeah, when you talk about closer by committee, that is based on matchups, right? You're saying, okay,
Ouch.
this is the best
102
guy.
Barca Jason. Ouch.
Yeah, it's it's who's the best guy in the fit for the job, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. We've talked about this for the ninth, like who's got that mindset or they can get the out. What if the biggest outs are in the 7th and 8th inning?
Right.
That is where you need your best guy, your shutdown guy. That's why Scott Oberg has been the most valuable guy on this bullpen for the last 2 years. And the year that Ottavino had in 2018 was why he was so valuable, because you even saw him sometimes in the 6th inning because it was a super huge spot. Maybe he even went 2 innings. So really it's just about the matchup, and whoever, at the end of the night you look and go, oh, that was the guy that got the save. Well, the whole bullpen got the save, right? It was a team effort to get those final 3 innings, those final 9 outs. So, it really will be that matchup, and it could be that Yency Almonte is that guy, to do that. Estevez, he's the one guy that I think could hold the job down, but maybe you do want him in that 8th spot. The one thing for sure that we learned, and we'll get to more of that later, is that bullpen is a question mark now for sure.
Yeah, and I'm even working on a written piece for this, so I think we'll leave it here for now. But everything in that bullpen is a question mark, and a question mark doesn't mean that it's all going to be negative. But what was the comment up earlier? Somebody asking about the trade deadline. It looks like Rick here asking, don't have a close in the roster. How soon could you see the Rocks look to trade? I think it's going to be difficult for any team to swing a trade earlier than right up against the deadline. It's always kind of difficult to pull that off, even more so when more than half the teams are going to make the playoffs, and it's such a short season. You feel like you're one hot stretch away from turning it around. That said, I do think they're good. I think Jeff Bridich is going to be all over the phones because it's so clear. We all see the same thing. We're all have eyes that are connected to our brains and have been watching baseball for a couple of years now, and we see a really good baseball team that bullpen is full of guys that on any given day they might strike everybody out, or they might just completely implode and cost you the game. And you need some stability there. It could come internally, but I do think they'll be looking for some answers from outside as well. And who that may be will just emerge from whatever teams are really bad. And there's only a couple so far.
I would suggest everyone right now to make a list of the top 5 guys you would like for the Rockies to go after at the trade deadline. And I'll tell you this, no matter who you are, all 5 of those guys will not be traded for by the Rockies. The moves or move that they make will just be somewhat of a reclamation project. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt some folks to hear this, but look at what Jake McGee has done with the Dodgers. 2-0.
That's not going to last.
8 2/3 innings pitched.
I don't believe in that at all.
Well, 12 strikeouts, 2 walks. Yeah. Again, it's a different setting, though. That's the other thing, too. He's not pitching at Coors Field.
Right.
But that's evidence of, and we've talked about this before, too, this idea that sometimes just changing your outfit makes you feel better, right?
Right.
They say, hey, you want to lose weight, you want to exercise more, go buy some new clothes, workout clothes, and that will kind of inspire you. Well, Jake McGee is now wearing, the red, white, and blue of the Dodgers, more white and blue than the red, but that's in there. And all of a sudden, he's a different guy. That's kind of what the Rockies are going to do. They're going to make a move like that where one team is maybe fed up with their guy or just isn't getting the job done. And the Rockies say, well, you know what? We've seen this guy be successful and be successful at Coors Field. Foster, can you do something with this guy? And yeah, I'm noticing this. He may be tipping his pitches, whatever it is. You swing a deal, you get a guy or 2. I think you need to at least get 2 of those guys, and maybe one of them just works out.
Yeah, if you're going to go that route, you need 2 of them. But yeah.
Precisely. And you
go,
that reason, hey, exactly. This guy worked, but it's not going to be that name because that name is going to cost you that much more. And again, we're talking about a rental where you're getting him for a month. Okay, that's fine. But the playoffs now are even harder to get through. Like, if this were a normal season and the Rockies were in the wild card hunt, they would still have to just win 1 game, right, to win the wild card game. Now they've got a series, but even still, it's very convoluted and difficult to justify maybe getting rid of one of your top prospects, especially if there's
do
another
that.
team
Can't do it.
vying for that player, and you go, sorry, but you are going to have to give up Michael Toglia, your first pick that you made it back in 2019.
Totally.
You have to give up one of your top guys. No, sorry. So even if the guy's great, even if we're talking about, let's say the Astros decide to throw it all away, and they give up Roberto Osuna or somebody like that, doesn't matter.
Right.
Those guys really aren't going to be available, and the ones that are.
What's Pat Neshek doing? That's what we need. Is he 40 now?
If you are anywhere near a baseball card shop, go inside and
just see
ask.
Who's there.
Just say Pat, and if anyone turns their head and look, give them our number, and we will talk to them. We'll get Bridich and him together. Maybe he can come back.
Look him up. You never,
Daniel Bard came back. Crazier things.
Well, that's the
happened.
thing, right? The most reliable guy right now in the Rockies bullpen was a coach last year. So, what do we know about relievers? It's a very strange thing. But your season can be sunk by them, so it can't go totally unaddressed. And that's why I think you're right. You don't mortgage your future. You make a couple of interesting additions. You hope they pan out, and if they don't, you turn around and go after some stuff for next year. But Patrick, one of the things that's going to help with whoever's pitching, whether it's the starter or the reliever, is the defense of your Colorado Rockies. And I've got to raise my glass here. I haven't done the Hamilton in a minute, so raise a glass to defense. Really, really fantastic stuff out of the Rockies. After defense has cost them arguably a couple of games this season, we know, though, that they can pick it with the best of them. And this guy named Nolan Arenado just when you think one day he's going to slow down and stop, right? Like he can't. Surely we've seen the best of Nolan Arenado, even if he continues to be very, very good, even if he continues to win Gold Gloves because he's just super, super solid. Surely he'll stop doing things on a near daily basis
with ease
that make us go, holy, and then you take a drink of your Breck Brew to make sure on your PG show that you don't say too many things out loud. And I got to say, these following plays, for me, I'm going to enjoy my Breck Brew. They're brought to me. Hopefully they're brought to you by Breck Brew as well, because it's the best companion for any of these types of highlights that we're going to take a look at with Nolan Arenado.
Your backhand. This was a rifle shot.
Notice how low he is, and now he just gets up and calmly just wings it across on the money, per usual.
Well, he had the luxury of knowing it was hit exceptionally hard, and then Mathis is running. That is crazy
That's
good.
Crazy good. What a treat it is to be able to watch him.
That's ridiculous. And a little bit of redemption for Daniel Murphy, I will say, on the other side of that. Similar to the play the game before that he didn't make the dig on. It actually did. I don't think it hit the dirt, so I don't know that you can give Murphy credit for a dig there. But he made a nice little stretch to get it. But, man, you can't hit the ball by that guy on the third baseline.
The ball was actually behind him a little bit, too.
I was going to say, or you can, but he'll still get it, yeah.
It was a subtle thing that I didn't see, when it happened live, and then even when they showed the replay, I didn't notice it. But if you do get a chance to go back and look, the third base coach, Tony Beasley, like immediately once he stops the ball and Arenado scoops it, he just puts his hands on his hips like, come on. Like his body language is just off the charts there with that. And Arenado's throw wasn't great, but it didn't need to be because it was Jeff Mathis. If that's Elvis Andrus going down the line right there, you're going to get maybe even better throw. Like in a sense, you can't even take points away from him from that because he just did what he had to do. And again, he just makes it look so easy, a play that a lot of third basemen in Rockies history, wishes that they would have made it at one point in their career. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, I gave it a 7.5 on the Arenado.
I like that.
And I had some people go, man, that's really harsh. And I just want to remind people that the entire point of the Arenado meter is to be remarkably harsh. To get an 8 or a 9 on that, you've got to be basically one of the top 20 plays of Nolan Arenado's career. That's kind of how I think about it. And so you watch a play like that, which is extraordinary, which might be the best play in the career of half the third baseman in baseball. If they made that, they'd be sending that to, this is the best play I've ever made. But it's not for Nolan, and it's not, I don't think it's in his top 20. That's why the 7.5. And that's harsh, and that's why we've never handed out, neither I or Manny Randhawa, who also has some ownership over this, have ever handed out a 10, because it would have to be unequivocally the best play in the history of Nolan Arenado, and something that we think it's unlikely he could do better than. And I just can't imagine what that play would even look like.
If anyone has ever watched a particular food review show where a person eats pizza and they do it in one bite, you would be familiar with a certain scale where, yeah, giving something like a 10 is an amateur score, because you see a great play and then Arenado turns around and he makes a play even better. You can't improve upon that, right? No. So yeah, it's 10s are hard to come by. 9s even, it's hard to quantify what a 9 is, because so many of the plays that he makes are in and around the ballpark of an 8, or a play that's a 7. I think we know the difference of what it looks like, but it's so minute, the difference. And again, any other player in baseball would kill to have a play like that. I've watched all of Todd Frazier's career, a majority of which was spent playing at third base, and I honestly have never seen him make a play like that. Close, very close, maybe a few times. But even him, Rangers player there in town, I've never seen him make a play like that. And as you said, top 20 plays of Nolan Arenado, that play's not on it.
Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 for a lot of guys. It's just not for Nolan, and that was the whole point of creating that scale. So I've got, like I said, I've got my mango mosaic because I'm down at the DNVR bar, but I have really, really been getting into the Avalanche Amber Ale because it's playoff hockey time for the Colorado Avalanche. I've been drinking them down here at the DNVR bar, but as soon as I leave here, I'm going to swing by the farmhouse, and you should do the same, because if you call it 303-803-1380 from noon to 8 p.m., you use code DNVR, you'll save $5 on both the food and the drink that you can get from them. And Producer Kale, if you've got that other Nolan Arenado highlight, I'm going to pour back this Breck Brew and enjoy this one.
Pulled to Nolan, what a play. Now can he throw him out? Oh my goodness, what a play that was.
Just add that again to the human highlight reel that we call Nolan being Nolan.
That is as good as it gets going to your backhand. This was a rifle shot.
Notice how low he is. And now he just gets up and calmly just wings it across on the money per usual.
Well, he had the luxury of knowing it was hit exceptionally hard, and then Mathis is running. That is crazy good.
Crazy good. What a treat it is to be able to watch.
All right, so it was the same one, but
that wasn't from his rookie year. It was in black and white.
That was on,
it was in black and white.
That's on me. There were so many good ones. I thought I got two different ones, and they, how they love to put up multiple highlights. But hey, it was worth a second look. No one's gonna. I don't think we're gonna get too many angry letters for taking.
It also allowed me another look at Ed Murphy, where he's normally been kind of putting his hair up in a little man bun, and he kind of had his hair flowing.
Yeah,
today,
we got a better look at the
base.
flow, and we got much better look at the flow on that one. So that's worth it as well. And Kenneth asking, what did you guys give Arenado when he went onto the tarp? Would you have given him a 10 if he had thrown the guy out as well? That is the play to beat. That is, I don't think their anemometer existed at the time. It was created the next season when he did something also remarkable in San Francisco. If you'll recall, it was a diving stop where he kind of knocked the ball down and then turned over and picked it up with his bare hand and threw from his butt, but like falling backwards and down. And that play ended up being in his top 10 and was in it. But yeah, the tarp play is the 10 out of 10. That's the one to beat. Even though if he had thrown the guy out at third base, that would have been arguably one of the greatest top 5 play in the history of baseball. But yeah, I think that's his best play.
No issues there. I mean, that's just one of those clips when, especially if you're trying to get somebody new into baseball and you're like, all right, let's watch some bloopers or let's watch just great defensive plays, because home runs really, a lot of it may have to be, contextual. Certainly, Jose Bautista's, bat flip looks cool, but it's the defensive plays that really can pull somebody in and go, oh my God, this guy, Ozzie Smith, laid out full body extension. It hit a rock, and instead of catching it with his glove hand, caught it with his throwing hand, and then made the throw over on first base. Even with grainy footage, you can look and go, that's one of the most athletic plays you'll ever see. Arenado's play up on the tarp goes on that all-time list of plays. It's 10 out of 10. That is the one. That is the marker which all other plays will be judged by.
Right. If something is going to place a 10 out of 10 on the Arenado meter, it will need to have been better than the tarp catch.
We'd have to let's make a prediction. What would it even be? Now I have an idea, so this is why you can think while I'm talking. So it would be very similar to a play. I think Jeff McNeil and Eloy Jimenez made it last year, coincidentally both in Chicago because they had the expanded netting. But it'll be a play kind of like that Jeter play where he comes out of nowhere behind third base, makes the catch. He's got no time to slow down and just dives into the stands. It's going to be something like that with the netting, and he's just going to bounce off of it and then go in and throw a guy out at first base who is maybe stealing on the play. Yeah. And it's going to be a bang-bang double play where, again, it's like a bouncy castle where he's making this diving play, bounces off the netting, and even just that alone, I think would be ridiculous because
love it.
You don't even know if he's thinking about that netting at that point going. He's just like, I'm getting me that ball.
Yeah, I'll give you one because it's something he's almost done twice. The over-the-shoulder basket catch in foul territory where he turns around and throws the guy out at home plate. If he had converted that double play, and it was really dumb luck that he didn't because Nunez caught that one. It was Harrison Bader, remember, going in 2019. He makes the over-the-shoulder basket catch in foul territory, fires it home, perfect throw, but the ball pops out of Nunez's glove. If that had been converted, it might have been
9-9, but yes, you're right.
Yeah,
that should have been. That was a 9-9 for sure.
And then he had another one this year where he made that running over-the-shoulder basket catch, but the guy at third didn't even go, and he turned and fired it. That was just a couple of days ago, right? So if he gets that maybe a little deeper out there, gets it on a dead run, turns and fires and throws a guy out at home or something, I could see that scoring a 10 out of 10.
A 9.8 would be on a shift with a runner at first base. He dives up the middle like a shortstop, right? Like we've seen Story. Dives up the middle, makes the grab, goes over, touches second base, throws over to first for the double play.
He almost tried to pull off something kind of like that today.
Because that's a play that shortstops make, and it's great, but it's like, no, Nolan, do the hot corner thing. So even that in like a perfect world is like phenomenal, but you've seen shortstops do that. That's like a 9-8, 9-9.
Yeah, Wild the Innocent bringing up the triple play. I've thought about that a couple of times. One that's in his top 10, because it'd be very difficult, but one that's in his top 10 for me is a play he made years ago against the Padres where he made a diving stop to his right with runners at first and second, one out, diving stop on the ground, got up, tagged third, and threw it to first and actually turned the thing into a double play, which you just don't see very often. Usually the guy will just come up and get the one out at first. But if he made some sort of really good play on a wicked short hop and he had to make a quick move to his right and then tag the bag and turn and through, but then you still need cooperation from other people. It'd be tough to get a 10 out of 10 on a triple play, but
yeah, because a lot of triple plays are almost like
circumstantial.
Circumstantial, especially if it was like unassisted too. You're like, I was just standing there, I caught the line drive, I was next to second base, the runner came into me. But something like that where, especially if you see that reaction of, let's say you got the infield up, bases are loaded, tight game. So again, it has to do with the situation. He lays out to his left, or his right, on the backhand, goes back, touches third base, because it was a line drive, touches third base for the second out, throws over the first base, and it's like just otherworldly, and again, gets out of a major jam in a situation there. So there's potential for that. You're right.
There's always the weird stuff, too. Like, he almost made that play the other day where the guy hit it off the plate when the bases were loaded, and he jumped up in the air, tried to catch it with his bare hand and throw it to the catcher for the force out. Like, if he'd have converted that probably would have been at least an 8 on the scale, right? There's the time he fielded a bunt on the first base side of the pitching mound and threw it to second base to get the force out and almost turned that into a double play.
That was my next suggestion, is some kind of barehanded play where you get the guy at second base and the runner, the batter runner maybe is lollygagging down to first base, and you actually get him. And it's like, you barely got the guy at second, very gutsy, got him, but then boom, Story goes and throws him out at first base too. You go, wow, that's crazy. But you just have to put your body at risk. I think that's kind of that major piece in order that makes it, so high on that scale.
Looks like we have a little bit of a frozen Drew.
All right, Kale. So you're in. We talked for our pre-show conference there. And at the end of every series, we're going to do a new little segment called What Did We Learn? Right? Because in a 3-game set, a lot of different things can happen. And the things you learn one day might not necessarily be true, the next series. But you have a couple new different takeaways. So for this series against the Rangers, where they lost the first 2 games, they were able to pull out that last one on Sunday afternoon, 10-6. What jumped out at you as something that you either thought about the team or a particular player that stood out and you said, you know what, here's what I learned about this guy or this team?
A couple things. Looks like we've got Drew back as well. Drew, you back?
I'm good. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
there.
I learned. So a couple things I learned. I think my biggest takeaway would be that Daniel Bard's the most reliable arm they have in the bullpen right now. And I don't think that necessarily means they should make him the closer, but he's really thriving in the role he has right now. And so I necessarily wouldn't mess with that. And I like that Bud Black's not really messing with that.
I dig that. I dig
Very
that
strong.
takeaway.
Yeah,
I
very strong.
think that's something we probably learned from this whole week even, that there really isn't one guy you can absolutely count on to do that. And Bard has shown, at least mentally, right, that no shake stuff, the come in and do it. He got the save in that game that was about to go completely bananas against the Diamondbacks. So I've got to agree with that. I think that's
He gave up a run today, but again, if you look at some of the jams that Diaz got in even before today,
right.
You just say, okay, it's not going to be too many extremes here. If he doesn't have it one day, it's not going to be the end of the world, but we can rely. We generally know what we're getting out there. I would agree with that, Kale.
I guess the other takeaway I have was that Bud Black was right to stick with Ramiel Tapia with his slow start to the year. I think giving him that play time, allowing him to build that confidence up, getting him going. He's been excellent defensively all season. And then we've seen his bat warm up. He's never going to be that massive hit it out of the park home run guy, but 3-hit performance today, really, really solid, moves the bases. And I think that's all you can ask for from a guy like that. And I'm glad he stuck with him.
Now you're singing my song. Now you done took mine there, producer Kale. What you doing? No, that's just straight up. Like, people were ready to run this guy out of town, give up on him for his career, and he was a huge part of what they did out there on offense today. And the swing and miss stuff going away. The thing I thought he did the best out there was that 10-pitch at bat right in front of the 3-run jack from Ryan McMahon to foul off like 6 pitches after he had fallen down in the count and really turn the pressure around, come out of there with a strong single. Like, when he gets into these zones and he's not swinging and missing, like Kale said, he's not going to hit a bunch of home runs, but he stays off of that stuff that's a little bit too far outside the zone. When he's confident, he can make contact consistently as well as anybody on this team. And I think moving forward, you're going to see a pretty good version of Ramiel Tapia.
Yeah, Tapia has only recorded a hit in 4 games, and all 4 of those games were multi-hit efforts. Yeah. So going back to Game 2 against Arizona, 8 for 17, 5 runs, and RBI. So, again, you need Ramiel Tapia. Again, as Kale said, he's not going to, be that potentially 25 to 30 home run, hitting guy. He's still putting on muscle. Like, he's still getting bigger. He's still, just that young, but I don't know if he's got an all-star appearance in him or not, but bottom line is, if you're going to be successful in 2020, you got to keep Ramiel Tapia, in that lineup at times, and just, again, balance that playing time however you need to get the right guys in that lineup, and Black definitely pushed the right buttons this week with Tapia.
Yeah, I, for one, am not shocked that the kid can hit. And I think there's a lesson to be learned there as well. We've seen that with Ryan McMahon this week. You can cross-apply that, with another big 3-run home run. We just talked about that. And David Dahl, who we haven't seen come out of the other side of it, who sat a couple games in this series. And I don't think that means that Bud Black is burying him, or he's done with them, or he's not going to be back out there and be important for this team this year. But we've seen some of these guys start to turn it around, and that's going to be really big. Wild the Innocent pointing out that Kemp had a nice day. At least one member of the Colorado Rockies took the Diamondbacks approach of, I'm just going to hit weak bloopers into center field. It was nice to see somebody go with that approach, I guess.
So that was one of my 3 things that I learned, was that Kemp is vital to this team, much like Ramiel Tapia is vital, where he's going to be, relied upon to, drive in runs in the middle of the lineup. And you see what he does at the plate. And, while he's not, hitting home runs at the same rate he did, in his late 20s with the Dodgers, teams are fearful of him. And they are pitching him with respect, much like they did with Matt Holliday in 2018 during that run. Right. So I still don't necessarily know that we've seen, the best of Kemp just yet. I don't think he's, can ratchet it up that much more, but certainly he's been incredibly important. I also learned Charlie Blackmon is human, but still very capable of batting 400, because you see what he did slumping on Saturday. 2 more hits again today.
So your boy broke out of his slump.
Yeah, he just doesn't care. It's like, all right, I know you want to talk about, batting 400, but it doesn't matter. I'm not going to do it. And it's like I don't know if it's not self-loathing. It's aggrandizing. I don't know what you would call it, but I definitely think that works in his favor in a major way, and he's got a good shot at doing it.
Batting in the high 400s up to 500 where he got a week ago is completely unsustainable. He was bound to have a day where he went 0 for 3 like he did the other day. I don't think it's really a problem. He's still hitting. He hit great situationally today.
Batting average is all the way down to 446, Kale. I don't know
I know, it's so horrible. But he was really great situationally today. He got the hits when he needed to get the hits. And that's where I think his value is coming most, is his situational at-bats, even though he is still hitting, like you said, 446.
Totally. And they had a big one there, I want to say is the 4th inning, where after Mac hits the 3-run jack to give him the lead back, right? But it's a 3-2 game at that point. We see a lot of times like that'll be it. And then it's okay, you hand the ball back to Jon Gray, and he's got the lead, but it's still a tense lead. And he's like, if I give up a run, I've given up the lead, right? They went out and got a couple more. They got some help from really terrible Rangers defense, particularly on the ball that Trevor Story hit that was dropped. You got to thank the starter for walking, Drew Butera. Thanks, Allard. Drew Butera is not a guy you walk. But still, and then they dropped the one from Trevor Story. And then Charlie Blackmon comes up and says, we got a gift in this inning. We got a 3-run jack in this inning. But there's a guy at third base. And I'm going to drive in one more run. And drove that ball past Dietrich at first base. And so I think, they've got to add those on. The offense has to be able to do those things. And so a 2 for 3 day with a pair of walks. And if they're going to walk Charlie more and more, he can hit 400 for the year, because that'll just be fewer at-bats where he has a chance to lower it.
Yeah, that's right. The final takeaway that I had was Jon Gray has fight. That kid, that man, he's got fight. And
I know he's like 27 now.
We've seen it. We've seen it a lot over the years, but not at the right times that I think a lot of the fans have wanted him to have, like in the wild card game, opening day of 2018. Like there have been those moments where you want him to have the fight where he doesn't have it. Well, today was one of those days where no one was asking for it, but he came out and he did it with those 7 innings, kept his pitch count down, and really just it was very impressive. And again, precisely what the team needed. Probably just as much as what he needed, because those questions about his diminished fastball, obviously lingering and some command issues, but what he was able to do with the slider today, and outside of just those 2 pitches, it was only 1 other hit. Got 7 ground ball outs, 0 fly ball outs. So he kept the ball in the infield, and as you correctly predicted, Drew, got the strikeouts back with 7. So big fight, big knockout from Gray.
Big knockout stuff there. And my final big takeaway was, again, that this offense can make big things happen when they follow their correct strategy. I talked about this a lot in the Rangers. I didn't think they got away from it in the Arizona series. In fact, the offense was not the problem in the slightest in the Arizona series. That was a bullpen disaster. This Rangers series, the first game, it made sense to me. They tried something different with Lance Lynn because he's a special pitcher. You try special things. Game 2, they can't do that in the playoffs. That in a 3-game series, and that's what you're going to get in these playoffs in your first round. That's what you cannot do, is continue to have a poor offensive approach against a pitcher where, while he was good, he wasn't great, and you needed to get him out of that game an inning or 2 earlier and give your chance against the Rangers bullpen, and that cost them the series. But that they bounced back in the finale and put up 10 makes me go, see, there it is. Don't do that anymore. You'll be fine. If you can get away with 1 out of 60 doing that. But when you get to the playoffs, they have to stick with that offensive approach. I think Allard had thrown 50 pitches in the first 2 innings today. That's what the Rockies need to do. And when they're attacked by that Lance Lynn guy who's just throwing the strikes, they've got to eat it a little bit. They've got to stick with it. Don't get outside of yourself, and your offense will score runs.
Yeah, they have got an opportunity to do that a lot in this Houston series coming up because outside of the Tuesday night start from Zach Greinke, the Houston Astros are throwing out Brandon Bielak, Framber Valdez, and Christian Javier. I had not heard of any of these guys.
You made all of those people up. You made those things up.
Those aren't real baseball players.
Framber Valdez? Come on, I'm not that smart. I'm not that creative.
It's a name generator on MLB The Show. It's just click random, a couple of names to throw together.
I pride myself on knowing
Gonzalez?
Prospects, but those are just names that I did not know coming into this season. So
just some dudes. Well, you hope that the Rockies will keep swinging it just the way I've been swinging it out there on WGT Golf, which you can download totally for free at DNVRGolf.com. It's a whole lot of fun. You can get full stroke or closest to the hole play at world-famous golf courses, including Bethpage Black, St. Andrews, and more. It's totally free, and we have a ton of fun with it. You can join now the 3rd DNVR Country Club. That's how much fun it's been. That's how popular the game has been, and that is how free the game has been. So come hang out with us. Talk some trash, play a little digital golf. What do you have to lose? Download it at DNVRGolf.com. Patrick, you started to talk about it there. That's where I wanted to wrap our conversation up today. The Rockies have this odd 2-2. I don't like these. I've never liked these 2-2 home and away sets. They're very strange, much like a 4-game series or a doubleheader. I feel like it's difficult to come away with much more than a split in these, especially when you're playing a good team. The Houston Astros have struggled this year. They haven't been the dominating powerhouse that they've been in years past. I said in the offseason and coming into this year, even before the lockdown and everything got extra weird, that I thought this was going to happen to the Astros a little bit. Not because I think their offense was 100% predicated on the cheating, but that offense is a lot about confidence. And when something is taken away from you, your knowledge of what pitch is coming or whatever else. And we've seen Jose Altuve hitting like $170 this year. A lot of these other guys have really struggled. You could argue it's karma. You can argue it's some of these other things. But I really do think it's just that it's difficult to hit under a completely different mindset than you've been in years past, whether it was cheating confidence or whatever the confidence was, whatever reason you were confident at the plate, to take that away from somebody. I think there's a chance here for the Rockies to come out and get 3 wins in this set against the Astros for the reasons that you've pointed out here. Do you think they can pull that off?
I don't know if they can do that in this series, and it's not so much about the Astros as it is about that bullpen.
Yeah.
Again, with 20 games in 20 days, and maybe even with an eye towards the Dodgers, you might go about your business ever so slightly different. But at the same time, I could very much see Bud Black just saying, look, let's just win as many games as possible, and whatever happens against LA is what happens against LA. So we just got to take them one at a time, which is very much what he would say. Hey, that's baseball, right? Yeah. So it's the bullpen is going to be that factor that is just not going to change throughout the rest of the season. So no matter who Houston throws out there, and if Colorado is able to jump out to an early lead, and you say, hey, it's 6-2, 6-1 going into the seventh inning. Do you feel good with a 6-1 lead? Like, we got this, you know what? Let me step away from a little bit, come back, watch the final 3 outs. Or are you going to watch every single one of those, batter-pitcher matchups when Colorado is in the field? You're going to do that because it's just not a sure thing right now.
Yeah. This is a great question from Wild the Innocent. Do the Rockies hit an Astro with a pitch this series, or any other kind of shenanigans, you might call it? Honestly, I would suspect not. And I do think that there are individual members. If Tyler Anderson was still on the team, it might be a slightly different question, honestly, because when you look back to that start in 2018 when Anderson got just pummeled by the Astros, and you can very easily argue that cost the Rockies the division. That said, I don't think the Rockies take some of the stuff quite as personally as teams that play in a division with the Astros, that play them all the time. I know the Rockies have had to play them in interleague the last couple of years, and so some of those losses they might. I wouldn't be totally shocked, but the other thing is, and this is a good chance, Patrick, for me to clarify something I've said a lot, because I've had some people asking if I'm hedging on my fact that I thought the Rockies were going to be good this year. Remember that my position has always been that the Rockies are one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the National League. And that's where I think they've been, because that's where they were in 17 and 18. That's where they were in the first couple of months of 19 before everything totally fell apart. And that's where they appear to be right now. In fact, I'd probably put them at a solid 3rd after the Dodgers and the Cubs. But that's where they are, right? And when you're not the Dodgers or the Cubs and you don't have those resources, then you can't be messing around with plunking guys and starting fights and maybe getting suspended and doing this other junk and nonsense. Like, the Dodgers can afford to have Joe Kelly get suspended for a little while because they just grow phenomenal baseball players on trees over there, right? The Rockies have to play like a 3rd-place team or a 4th-place team, because that's what they are. And I hope that I haven't misled anybody who's listened to this podcast or with the writing when I speak positively about the Rockies, or when I fight against some of these notions or narratives that I think are highly inaccurate about them. That I've never thought they were the class of the National League. And so you can't afford that stuff. You can't be messing around with that nonsense. So as much as I would love to see, like, Daniel Bard just come in with 98 and just plunk Carlos Correa right on his smug shoulder. Can a shoulder be smug? Right on his smug butt? No, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, it's probably been a factor for them. As you said, hey, if you don't know what pitch is coming, it's going to be a lot harder to hit. Just a general approach overall, of course. But you also have that fear factor of every time you step in and you go, wait, did I get a hit against this guy in 2018? He has this glint in his eye. Is this one going to come up and in a little bit? And so, and again, you got to, as a pro, you have to block that out. But if that seeps in every once in a while, that could have an impact on that particular at bat. Astros are kind of smack dab in the middle as far as getting hit by pitch. They've only been plunked 10 times coming into today. Rockies, interestingly enough, 1 time. Only once have they been hit by pitch. They're last in the major league. So that would be one of my suggestions. They need to improve on their HBPs. Crowd the plate a little bit more.
I was going to say, Tap is crowding the plate. Do you notice that? I mean, just while we're at the end of this thing, we're sort of we're spitballing, but Tap is crowding the plate a lot more than he used to. He's getting up on that thing, and if you notice, take a look at this. The number of times he's jumped out of the way of a pitch that's almost been a high and inside strike. Like, take a look at that. Tapia is crowding the plate for a reason, and I think that's part of the reason why he's going the other way with the ball a little bit better.
I know. Between him, Magadan, and Salazar, they kind of worked on his approach a little bit. And again, if that's when those adjustments came into play on Tuesday night, 8 for 17, pretty darn good results. You like to see a little bit more power there, but still, at the end of the day, hit them where they ain't, and that happens to be working. So that could be an interesting, element that we have to keep our eye on is Tapia's placement. In regards to the batter's box and home plate.
Right. And really this whole offense, as they go up against this Astros team, like you said, they got to stay inside their approach. They've got to find their runs against everybody who's not named Zach Greinke. You've got to take what you can get against that guy. The Rockies know him very well. He knows the Rockies very well. They do face him in Houston, so try to hit the ball to left field. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot of strategy for you against those guys. We'll be here taking this one in over the next 4 days, as it's a 2-2. The Rockies will come back to Coors Field for a pair before going out on a pretty decent road trip there and needing to get after the Dodgers. So now is not the time to let the Houston Astros get their confidence back as they sit basically at 500 if they win today. Are they 11-10 or 10 and yeah?
They
been
did win today. They've won 4 games in a row, so they're sitting behind
11
the A's,
and 10, and they're
who will just never lose again apparently.
The
So
A's are
they're
not
in
into
it.
losing.
They're scrapping, and again, they've got enough talent where they can get by with
Yes.
these AA pitchers getting on the mound for them. So.
Right. The key is going to be to score and score as much as you can. The Rockies will hand the ball to Kyle Freeland in the opener. It starts at 7:10 Mountain Time on Monday evening. Of course, we will have all the coverage for you, and we will be going live immediately following the game, or pretty close to immediately following the game, as we have been throughout this entire season. So make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel and you click the bell icon so you know whenever we are going live. Other than that, just make sure that you're following everybody on social media at Patrick D. Lyons, at Drew Creasman, at DNVR_Rockies. Kale, what's your at?
Just at Kale Sorbo. Kale with 2 L's.
Hit him up. Kale's awesome.
Sorbo with 2 O's.
Sorbo. Kale Sorbo, very close to Kevin Sorbo, who, of course, everybody knows was Hercules for a very long time. So we're going to have to start calling Kale Hercules. Xena was played by, Lucy Lawless. Escaping me for a minute. I got it. There you go.
Spinoff of Hercules.
That's right. And actually, Xena was super dope. And looking back on it, Hercules was very silly. But Xena actually holds up. But still, and that's the kind of stuff I used to watch when I was a kid. But now we watch all the Colorado Rockies games. We have a great time with all of you out there. We really do appreciate you hanging out with us. Make sure you're subscribed to the DNVR.com so you don't miss out on any of that written content. Plus, you get really cool discounts on this merchandise, including this shirt, this hat that I'm wearing, the shirt that Patrick's got going on, representing Groove. We got to get the Avs some wins, get them through this first round of the playoffs, drink as much Avalanche Amber as is safe to get that thing done. Otherwise, we can only ask that you continue to be absolutely awesome out there. We will continue to be absolutely Patrick Lyons, Drew Creasman, and producer Kale in here. And until next time, we will see you at the ballpark.